More and more women are participating in the gaming sector as coding and creative digital entrepreneurs. In South Africa, the number of women-led studios and women-inspired games are also growing, while a range of new market and industry opportunities are opening up. For more on this, let's speak with the creative director at Sea Monster Entertainment, Jade Duckitt. Jade, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Looking at some statistics here, in 2020, women made up nearly 40% of all gamers in the United States, whereas here in South Africa, participation of women players only stands at 7%. So while we do have very far to go in terms of parity in the sector, tell us about some of the exciting developments for women.
Thank you for having me. Well, one of the main things that we've seen is that games have become such a major part of what we're producing culturally. The gaming industry is larger than the movie and music industry combined in many parts of the world. So it's only right that women are starting to take their place as creators and consumers of this form of entertainment. And basically, it's all around getting our stories heard and creating games that are more appealing for women.
So apart from just gaming and taking part in gaming, what opportunities are there for women in terms of those creatives, creating the narratives, creating the kind of digital experiences? What kind of jobs, if you could call them that, should young women be looking at, if that's an industry that's growing and it's very lucrative, as you say, larger than the movie and the music industry? There's lots of opportunities, but we need to know where we are heading.
Absolutely. So from the creative side, you can be a designer, a game designer, which means that essentially you come up with the rules and the mechanics of the game. What are players doing? What are they trying to achieve? How do they get points for those actions? Then you could also be an artist or an animator or a writer. You could also be the producer or the production manager of all of those processes, or you could be a programmer who is actually doing all the coding which makes the game work. So there are so many different types of opportunities, and I suppose depending what your strengths are, there are so many different ways that they could be applied to the game industry.
So while we're also looking at space for women within the sector, we need to look at pay equality. That's very important. It doesn't help the men are making all the money from a very lucrative industry that women are telling the stories for. What's the situation like?
Well, with any industry that is more on the entertainment space, you find that it's very competitive and people are quite cutthroat, and it can be quite hostile at times. So a large amount of time is making sure that there is space for women, that they are given the position to have their voices be heard, as you say, that they are adequately compensated for that. And it's also about creating a culture that is more inclusive, because as we know, there can be a bit of a boys' club, and we need to sort of break down those barriers so that more women feel that they can feel part of that space and that there are opportunities that they won't be excluded from.
More and more women are creating those spaces for themselves as entrepreneurs. What kind of startup is it? Is it quite easy to enter into the gaming and digital world as a woman entrepreneur?
I would say it's pretty tough, but it's pretty tough for everyone. What we've done at Sea Monster is we're based in Cape Town, and we've primarily focused on games for spaces that are beyond just entertainment. So we still create games, but often they're games for education or marketing or social change. There are so many different ways that where we found games can actually solve serious business problems. And of course, if you're solving serious business problems, companies are willing to pay for that. So we've had lots of large companies come and pay us to create the games. And of course, from that, we've been able to create lots of job opportunities for women in gaming. And that's actually, it's a large and growing part of the gaming sector that I'm really excited to see South Africans participating in.
So we're seeing a move towards including coding and the like in our school, basic education structure. That hasn't traditionally really appealed or been aimed at young girls, but we're seeing more and more girls finding their feet in subjects like mathematics, science, and hopefully in the future coding as well. What do you think people like yourself, entrepreneurs, established professionals in the sector, can do to sort of reach out to young girls and inspire them to enter into that space?
The best thing that you can do is be visible. Often we assume that it's only men making games and they're making games for other men. And the more young South African girls can see how something like coding can be applicable, and maybe it's something that inspires them when they look at playing games, they might think of it differently, to think that, oh, I could make this. And how would I be able to make this? Well, learning to code is one of the ways that I could do that. So if we're inspiring that creativity and inspiring that thought, that possibility, then I'm pretty sure it really does help when, it's tough to learn how to code, or getting the maths marks or putting in the hours, and then that it gives a reason to stick through it.